Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to CALLOUS Draft Duel. We've got another draft today. It is between our player 2 here, former CALLOUS Invitational competitor, Jumpy23, and former CALLOUS Invitational spectator, Bhol. Love you, mean it. Bhol is going to be our player 1 here, and that means he's got both the first pick and the first ban. And he's going to start things off with what has been one of the most common bans in the tournament in Skarmory, which is pretty unsurprising to me. I think in round 1, granted, not all drafts have actually completed, but of all the drafts that have completed, which is half of them or a little more than half of them, I think Skarm has only actually survived through the initial bans one time thus far. So a poke that's been removed from the pool quite often. Jumpy with an interesting choice with his ban is just going to take Zapdos out. I don't necessarily hate that. I don't know that it is one of the absolute most powerful pokes in the mon, though it's in the format rather, even though it's obviously good. But it is certainly one of the safest and most versatile mons in the pool. And if you are just trying to take away something generically good or something that you just don't want to play against because of baton pass shenanigans, or it can just go on any team, I don't hate that choice. But it does mean that no matter what, given what's been banned and therefore what has not been banned, that there's going to be some big boys available in the early stages of this draft, no matter what happens from here. So, Bhol not only banning Skarmory, but also its partner in crime in Blissey. I don't have strong feelings one way or another about the Blissey ban in this format. On one hand, I do think that Blissey has the potential to be really good and really oppressive in this format. On the other hand, Blissey, even though it's going to do plenty of preventing your opponent from winning games, I don't know that it itself is going to be winning all that many games since it is so wallable as an offensive threat. Calm Mind Bliss does exist, but I think it is easy to shut Blissey down, whereas things like Metagross, Tyranitar, Salamence, Snorlax, all of which are available, and only one of those can be banned, so at most one of those will not be available. Those are things that you got to deal with immediately, or they're just going to beat you, and I don't know that Blissey falls into that category. So I don't love or hate that ban. I think Blissey's very good. I guess it just really depends on what your plan is, but if you're trying to remove things that can just kill you, Blissey is not one of them. So, Jumpy is going to come back with the Raikou ban, and I've got a cat rubbing up against me and making me click things that I don't intend to click. Sorry about that. There is the Raikou ban, which has been fairly common. I don't view Raikou as like must ban, auto ban, but it's certainly one of those pokes right in that conversation alongside the things that I just mentioned, T-Tower, Metagross, Snorlax, Salamence, what have you, among the top threats in the format. Of note, Gengar as well, which has been very frequently banned in the early drafts in this tournament, has also made it through the initial banning stages. So there is a lot of power available, to say the least. So Bhol gets to start things off, and he only gets to pick one Pokemon out of all those powerful things that we just talked about. I think there's valid arguments to be made for Metagross, T-Tar, Snorlax, quite a few different ways that you could go here. I don't know if there's a right or wrong pick when you're this early, but the one that he's going to opt for, and I'm fine with this decision, is going to be Metagross. So this is where it immediately begins. If you're Jumpy now, do you take things that are good into Metagross? Like, are you just taking Swampert or something right out the gate? Or are you just taking generically powerful things and saving the counters and all that kind of specific stuff for later in the draft? It looks like Jumpy is in the mindset of just taking the generically most powerful things, which I think this early on is totally fine. And in his mind, that means Salamence and Tyranitar. T-Tar I would grab here for sure. Salamence, I mean, for me, I kind of probably like Snorlax better, but at the same time, Snorlax is not good into Metagross, whereas Salamence is better into it, and then, Lax, for as good as it can be, there are a lot of things that can deal with it in this format, whether it's faster things with Leech Seed or Sleep Move. There are a plethora of very good, very viable fighters, whether it's Heracross, Hariyama, Medicham, Breloom, Blaziken, Machamp, whatever, that are all strong against Snorlax. Time will tell if it is as insane as some people believe it to be. Snorlax in some of these drafts has been outright first picked, and that may or may not be justified. We'll find out. But for now, Jumpy is opting for the just generically powerful Mons play, which I think is fine. Bhol, wisely, is not going to let Snorlax go back. I think that would be pretty egregious to float it back here. And then on the second option here, I think that Swampert is a great pick against Salamence Titar. I think that Gengar is worth a discussion, but I'm totally fine with this pick as well. This has been a highly sought-after Mon in this tournament. Aerodactyl, I don't think anyone's actually banned Aerodactyl yet, but it's been picked in the first like 5 or 6 picks basically every single time. It's been very, very highly valued so far in this tournament, and it's easy to see why. I think that it is a bit overrated in Emerald Open or in traditional draft because when you know that it's there, I think you can just load up on Protect Mons and largely neutralize it. The times that people that I've built for have played against Aerodactyl in Emerald Open, I haven't felt like it's destroying me or like I've been unable to neutralize it. I feel like I've handled it well enough. But in this format, it's a little bit different because you don't know which team it's going to be on. You don't know when it's coming. And obviously loading up on a bazillion Protect Mons only to not play against Aerodactyl is potentially not that great. And it also offensively deals with a whole heck of a lot of things. It dumps on a lot of the UUs that teams are inevitably going to have. I think you really can't go too far wrong by grabbing Aerodactyl. Like I said, it's been one of the most contested Mons. So Jumpy here is going to spice it up, and he has a pretty clear strategy. So Swampert, generic pick. He's already got T-Tar. It's just one of the best walls. It just makes sense. You're against an Aerodactyl. You're against a Metagross on the other side. Swampert, no-brainer, simple pick, nothing funky. But let's talk about this pick. This poke, I think, is quite good in this format, and people are realizing that, and they're taking it early. But there's early, and then there is early. In just his second round of picks, he's going to opt for Fortress here, which is funky in this format because, yes, Fortress obviously with that double fire weakness, but again, same thing like with the trying to tech out against Aerodactyl. If you bring a team with a bunch of fire attacks, with a bunch of HP fires, whatever, and then you don't play against the Fortress, all of a sudden, that's not that great. So Jumpy clearly valuing, he's got these three that might very well end up on a team together, T-Tar, Swampert, Fortress, some kind of Stally TSS equivalent. Not going to have the traditional Skarmobliss, those got banned out, but this is going to be the next best thing. So 2 more really strong picks here for Bhol. That's kind of unsurprising. It's just how it goes in the early goings. There's just so many good Mons available. You really can't go too far wrong with the early things unless you're Darth Tyros and you take Regirock in the opening round. Celebi and Gengar here, again, cannot go too far wrong. These are just 2 generically good Mons. One of the reasons that I particularly like the Celebi pick here is because it protects your Snorlax. Celebi, otherwise, if it were picked by Jumpy, is not only a great defensive pairing with the Swampert that he already has, but it is a great defensive Mon between its Bulk, its Recover, and its Leech Seed to neutralize Snorlax. So I think not only are you taking a good Mon and a Mon that your opponent could have used off the table, but furthermore, even better than that, you are protecting one of your pokes as well. So I really like the Celebi pickup in this position. Also, status spam, very much a thing in this format. There's only so many good Bellers, and Heal Bell itself is kind of an iffy move. You don't want to be loading up on that if you don't have to. So if you could just take natural Cure Mons and deprive your opponent of Bell, you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Gengar, great Mon, has been banned very often in this. The fact that he's getting it in his 3rd round of picks, really, really strong. So love Bowl's draft so far, and Jumpy's makes sense as well. Don't think anyone's done anything dumb. and this one's pretty competitive. So now it gets interesting yet again. This one, not as thrilled about. So he's going to go for Starmie, which totally fine with. One of the better Mons, takes away a good spinner. Starmie's good. However, this pick is the first kind of head scratcher spicy pick here. Jumpy is going to opt for Flygon, which I think is a fine Mon, but I think this is pretty damn early to be taking Flygon. I think that the mindset could be, I mean, he's obviously, again, building around his Sand Squad, given the Tyranitar pick, and T-Tar does not make it through bans very often. It's also a Rock Resist for Arrow, but I think additionally he could be messing around with Hidden Powers, because something obviously can't have both Hidden Power Ice and Hidden Power Grass. You don't know if you're going to be against the Flygon, the Swampert, both, or neither, and it can put the opponent in a pretty awkward spot where it's kind of a crapshoot guessing game as to which of those Jumpy may have brought in that game. So I think things with 4x weaknesses, like I said, I'm not a huge Flygon guy in Emerald Open because you know it's there. You load up on ice attacks, easily neutralized. In this format, I think it's a lot better. That being said, would I take it in the round one? Has anybody else taken it in round one? Not so sure about that part. But Jumpy being very consistent with his theme, he's both denying rock resist when he already has a T-Top and Immense that might have a rock attack, and the Flygon itself might opt for a rock attack, and he's going really hard with the sand theme. And just like Celebi protects the Snorlax defensively, by taking the Flygon, he may be helping his T-Tar defensively, because traditionally Flygon is good against T-Tar defensively. And now you don't have to play games of should T-Tar bring Ice Beam? What if he doesn't bring the Flygon? Blah, blah. That threat simply isn't there anymore. So, again, I understand this pick. Might have been a big brain pick. We'll see how it plays out. So, Bhol starting to panic here a little bit. Like, wait a minute, you've already taken two of the good spinners in Foray and Starmie. Situational awareness kicking in here. He's really not happy about the spinners being taken off the table. So he takes what I would say is a pretty early Cloyster, all things considered, and then he's going to grab Claydol as well. I think these are both good picks. I think the Claydol being a rock resist is crucial. Taking rock resist off the table serves double duty. Not only are you protecting your own Aerodactyl with its rock attacks, but furthermore, you are loading up against the T-Tar, which very well might have rock attacks on the other side. This very well may be a back and forth battle of rock resist. It very well might be both players trying to load up on them. They might be a very hot commodity in this draft, given that both Aerodactyl and T-Tar made it through and ended up on opposite sides. So rock resists, I think, are going to be invaluable, which, again, further explains and further justifies why Jumpy might have opted for Flygon this early. So the Claydol pick I could totally understand and totally appreciate, especially with two good spinners already off the board thanks to Jumpy. Cloyster, however, I think maybe it might just be not wanting to let his opponent have both spiker spinners, which has already happened in some of the drafts where one guy has both of them, and that can be difficult to deal with. I don't hate the Cloyster pick. I'm not convinced that Cloyster is an amazing Mon in this format, but these drafts are just so nuanced and everything is just so circumstantial, and it might be the right pick for this situation, even if it's not something that I personally would generally consider to be a worthy round one pick. So now, after Bhol makes these picks, it falls on Jumpy to make a ban, and his first ban of the second batch of bans is going to be Medicham, actually. I think that the thought process here might be banning out fighters is going to help protect his T-Tar, first of all. Medicham is just a scary poke to play against in general. It is kind of, sort of, technically a rock resist. So again, he's not only protecting his T-Tar by banning out a fighter, but he's also taking a rock resist out of the pool. And also, it's too early to really know, but it's very possible, based on what Jumpy has taken so far, that his team is like a little more fat, slow, passive, mid-rangey, whatever. And those are the kind of teams typically that Medicham really kicks the crap out of. You can't just sit there and do nothing. The thing will just sub up and focus punch you into oblivion, and Jumpy does not want to deal with that, so that to me makes sense. Bhol is viewing this a very different way. He's afraid, I guess, of the fortress or the potential stall team building on the other side. He already has a good ghost in Gengar, so he does not want to give his opponent a good ghost. So he is going to opt for Dusclops here, which is interesting. I think he doesn't want to play the mind game where he tries to spin with his Claydol and potentially his Cloyster, and in comes stupid Dusclops and walls it all day. I think he just doesn't want to deal with that. I think he doesn't want that to get paired with the Fortress. I think that it also, in a way, protects his Snorlax, so the Snorlax doesn't have to run Shadow Ball. Right now, there's no reason for it to run Shadow Ball, given what Jumpy's shown. So this ban, I am okay with. It makes sense to me. Jumpy's going to come back. I'm not sure about this ban. I think Jumpy, just from playing Emerald Open and seeing other draft formats, has a great respect for Sceptile in general. It could be, looking at the T-Tower, the Swampert, the Starmie, all of whom are grass vulnerable, that again, it's just a specific targeted thing. He doesn't really want a fast, hard-hitting grass Pokemon on the other side. Could be as simple as that. I don't hate the ban. I don't know that Sceptile would have been taken in round 2, but I don't think it's outrageous that Sceptile could be taken or might be taken in round 2. I think it's something worth considering. So again, I don't hate this ban either. I think if you're just looking at T-Tar, Swampert, Starmie and going, man, I've got a lot of grass weaknesses, maybe I should address that, then I can understand why Sceptile would be something that you don't want to be there. And then finally on the other side, the last ban of this round, coming from Bhol, he's going to opt for Registeel. I think it is the same concept. I think Rock Resists are just very, very contested in this. And again, he's protecting things that he already has. The Registeel could be really obnoxious for the Snorlax, no longer an issue. Registeel could be obnoxious for the Metagross, got to watch for things like Counter, things like T-Wave could be a real pain in the butt, could be obnoxious for Aerodactyl. It makes a lot of sense to me. Not only is he protecting the Snorlax, the Aerodactyl, and to a lesser extent the Metagross, but he is also depriving his opponent of a Rock Resist. That is one fewer thing that he can switch into Aero. And then, I mean, he could have taken it for himself, but you risk Jumpy grabbing it if you give him the opportunity to do so, because Jumpy does have the next batch of picks. So I don't mind getting rid of it there. I think it is a very real possibility, especially with how stally the team is looking for Jumpy, that he could have taken Registeel in his next 2 picks. I think that is very reasonable. So really, so far, I'm very complimentary. I think these guys have had a really solid, sensible, competitive draft. I'm not clear who's winning at this point, but so far, by and large, everything that these guys have done makes a lot of sense to me. I think they understand the format. I think they're making smart picks, and super duper excited to see how this one continues to play out. So like I said, the next batch of picks is going to go to our player 2. That is Jumpy, and he is going to spice it up and go with a full pivot here. Nowhere close to what he had shown before. He's going to opt for Charizard and Alakazam, 2 very aggressive Pokemon, pretty different than what he's shown before. So he obviously has something of a Sandy Stolly team with some combination of this core, but we may be looking at some kind of mixed offense as well, and I can't imagine that Bhol, when he sees this, is overly thrilled. I think the Charizard is absolutely a threat here to the things that he's drafted. There's no Milo or anything in sight, which I think would be a really good counter pick at this point. If I'm Bhol, not only does he need a water, but it's good against Swampert, it's good against Flygon, it's good against the Charizard. So Milotic immediately comes to mind. If I were Bhol, I think I would probably grab that in his next round. And then Alakazam is interesting as well. Dusclops, which is one of its bigger counters, gone. There is a Lax on the other side, so there's that, but Blissey has also been removed. Registeel has also been removed. Alakazam could be a real threat here if he can get it into the matchup, not against the Snorlax. So Jumpy taking some aggressive pieces here and doing some work. Like I said, if I'm Bhol, I would grab my Milotic here all day. I think the second you see the Charizard, not to mention it was already good against the Salamence, the Swampert, the Flygon. I think my Milotic is like a must pick here. Kind of surprised that Jumpy didn't either take it or ban it out, to be honest with you, because I think it's really good against this team. So that might be one thing I could fault Jumpy for, not getting the Milotic either on his team or off the table. Basically make it so Bhol can't take it. And Bhol, again, with picks that just flat out make sense to me. I think this is a fantastic response to what got shown. He's going to go with Milotic plus Jolteon. That makes a ton of sense to me. I love Jolteon against Starmie. I like it against Flygon and Salamence potentially. I think it's really good against the Charizard that just got picked. And like I said, the Milotic in my mind is like an obligatory. It's already so good against Jumpy's team, and he just took a Charizard. I think you've gotta take Milotic here. I think it would be strictly a mistake if he didn't take Milotic, but Bhol again just drafting well, demonstrating that he understands the format and has a great strategic mind. I think the Milotic response is exactly what he should take. Both these picks might be right, honestly. I think that's a really, really good one, too. Milotic Jolteon feels perfect, or damn close to perfect in my mind. I think that is very possibly the exact response that I would have made myself. So, good picks for sure. Definitely approve. And we move on to the next batch. So, Jumpy here. Regice, very powerful Pokemon, and then additionally Heracross here, like I said, has pivoted a little bit and gone for more aggressive stuff. Certainly Heracross, at very least, is one of the more aggressive Mons and is probably not going to be on that Sandy Stall team that he's clearly got going as well. Regice, one of the premier special walls. I think it makes plenty of sense into things like Celebi, things like Cloister Doll on the other side. It's going to wall Jolteon all day. It's a threat to Milotic. Again, just a really good response to what Bhol just picked and what Bhol has shown. The Regice makes a lot of sense to me. And then the Heracross, I'm not sure. It's not bad. He's the one with the Salamence for the Intimidate check, so that's a good start. Dugtrio and Gyarados are still on the table. Gyarados in general, kind of difficult to deal with in this. There's only so many things that truly counter it, and its best counter, Zapdos, has gotten banned out. I think a wonderful response from Bhol would be to take Gyarados here, but there are other ways to deal with Heracross, whether it's Wheezing or whether you go with something like Arcanine, whether you try to outspeed it with some kind of Psychic Pokemon, Espeon, that kind of thing. But I think a great response for Bhol would be to go for Gyarados here. And it's like he reads my mind. I swear I'm not looking ahead, but again, just a really good response. Bhol really seems to understand this format. I think this is just a really good response by him, again, both ways. The Gyarados with the Zapdos banned out, I think, is just very strong in general. And I think when your opponent just picked Heracross, it is that much better. And then Hariyama, not only do you want an additional answer to the Tyranitar, and Hari's probably the best fighter to do that. It just takes hits better than something like a Medicham, a Breloom, what have you. But Hariyama is also obviously a big threat to the Regice that he just took. So Bhol seems really good at this. The picks just make so much sense to me. It's just one of those things where you could just like watch the guy and you just go, this guy gets it. This guy understands the format. And it really feels that way. The picks for Bhol, just everything just totally makes sense. Without me looking ahead at what's going to get taken, I go, okay, this is what I would do. This is what I think you should be taking here. And then twice in a row, he's done exactly what I think that he should do. So I feel like Bhol really understands the format and is really demonstrating that he gets it. So Jumpy is going to respond now to the Gyarados and the Hariyama. You're going to have to let me know on this one. So the first pick, I'm with you. I understand it. Dragonite, I think, is just good in general in this format. Super versatile, malleable. You can make it do whatever you need it to do. Definitely a Dragonite fan. Gyarados on the other side. Okay, hit it with Thunderbolt. Hariyama on the other side. Fine. DD up, hit it with HP Flying. Versatile threat. Has T-Wave. Has Heal Bell. On board with the Dragonite. Great Mon. Great round 2 pick. Love the Dragonite. This pick, however, boy, we are fighting for those normal resists. They're getting banned out left and right. Scarm, Dusclops, Registeel, all normal resists. Gone. And he doesn't want to run some jank like Steelix or some shit. Steelix has been used or has been banned out as an attempt to be a Zapdos and Aerodactyl counter throughout this tournament. But in this case, he's going to opt for Scizor, which I think is a bit of a spice pick. I'm not sure how much of that is targeting the Celebi on the other side. Alternatively, I'm not sure if that is to somewhat, a little bit, counter the Lax on the other side. The bug attacking type also could be good against the Claydol. Scizor is interesting. That I would consider a spice pick. We haven't seen a lot of Scizor picked as a whole, and when it is picked, it hasn't been picked in round 2. So that one's spicy. I don't hate it. I wasn't expecting that, and I doubt that Bhol was either. But Dragonite Scizor, the response from Jumpy, and like I said, I can't emphasize enough that it feels like these guys really understand the format, and as a whole, are just drafting well, which is fantastic to see. This is, again, Bhol, really, they're both drafting well, but, like, Bhol just does everything right, I feel like. This is a perfect response. So he's going to go Moltres Dugtrio. That just makes so much sense. Like, you're going to take Moltres into a guy that just took Scizor. It's also good against the Hera. Speaking of good against Hera, grabs the Dugtrio here. Great threat for that. The Dugtrio gives you more T-Tower insurance. It definitely helps against the Heracross. You can baton pass to it with the Jolteon that you just took. Again, taking Dugtrio is going to protect some of your own stuff, such as the Meta, such as the Celebi. And the Moltres pick makes a ton of sense as well. It's a threat against the, like, Stally, TSS, Fori kind of teams that Jumpy's certainly going to have one of. It obviously cooks Fori. It's a threat against Swampert. It can be a threat, whether it's Will-O-Wisp or whatever hidden power, against T-Tar, against Salamence, what have you. It's obviously good against Regice. It's good against Heracross. Moltres, great pick. Dugtrio, great pick. Really impressed with the way that Bhol has drafted. He truly seems to understand the format and is doing everything right. He's really blowing me away with how well I think he's doing in this. All the picks just really make sense in my mind. So Jumpy is going to wrap up this round here, and then we're going to go to the third and final set of bans. Jumpy is going to opt for Kingdra plus Miltank here. So we'll go over that. So Miltank, in addition to the Dragonite, is a second Heal Bell user if he thinks that's important. T-Wave support is good, and Miltank is just a versatile mon. The moveset could be better, but it does get goodies. T-Wave, Heal Bell, Milk Drink, Ice Beam, Earthquake, a couple other things, and it's just a generally good mon in draft. I think end of round 2-ish is about where it should fall. Maybe you can get it round 3 sometimes. I don't know that it is a specific pick against anything that Bhol has, but I think it's just a generically good mon. It's totally fine to take it here. The Kingdra pick is interesting. I like it as a response to both Moltres and Dugtrio. I think it's a huge threat against both of those. Kingdra, even if it gets trapped by Dugtrio, will always live the non-crit EQ, will Rain Dance up, will outspeed it now, and is now very difficult to switch into. If Bhol does not have the Snorlax in that game, and even then, like, Rain Boosted Hydro Pump, pretty good chunk. I don't know if it's incredible into, like, Milotic, but against a lot of the squishier things, the Gengar, the Claydol, the Celebi, the Jolteon, whatever, I think Kingdra can be a big threat, and like I said, I think it makes sense into a guy who just picked both Moltres and Dugtrio as well. So the Kingdra response makes a lot of sense to me, and I like that pick. Miltank, I'm not so sure about. I love the mon. It's actually literally my favorite Pokemon of all time. But strictly in the context of this draft, Miltank, I could take or leave. Doesn't blow me away. Don't know if there wasn't a better pick there, but it is one of those mons that's just generically good, and you're not going to go too far wrong by picking it. So the next ban goes to Bhol after Jumpy gives us that Miltank there. And the thing that Bhol is going to opt to ban out, interestingly, he wants to take Houndoom out of the pool. I believe that's as simple as just protecting his own Gengar and his own Celebi. I think it really is as simple as that. Don't think there's anything too complicated. I think he sees that it's a threat to Metagross, threat to Celebi, threat to Gengar, and just doesn't want to get countered in that regard. Makes sense to me. Totally fine with the Houndoom ban. On the other side, Jumpy is going to remove Donphan from the pool. I think that he's doing that as a protection pick as well. I think not only does he want to protect his Cheetar, since Donphan is one of the things that stops it, but he's again taking yet another spinner out of the pool, and that's probably the long and short of it. I think he's largely doing that to protect his Cheetar. On the other side, Mystery Bus, the final ban for Bhol, taking that out of the pool. Again, I think it goes along with the same exact theme as removing Dusclops. I think he wants his spinners to actually spin. I think he wants normal resist / immunities to not be there for purposes of his Snorlax. He does have the Hariyama. Maybe he picks up another fighter. Doesn't want to play that game either. It's a sensible ban in my opinion. And then finally, again, protecting the Cheetar and just protecting a lot of his physical mons, Jumpy is going to opt to remove Regirock from the pool. And that is going to be it for bans. We are going to go into our final round of drafting here. And it's going to fall on Bhol now with the double pick. And he is going to kick off the third and final round of picks with some spice. We've got a Jinx appearance and a Steelix. I like it. I dig it quite a bit. Jinx is just such a dangerous mon, and he definitely has something. I don't know exactly how he's going to configure it, but there's obviously going to be at least one very offensive team here for Bhol. Jinx could be the perfect lead. I like it into a guy who took Dragonite. I like it into a guy who has a lot of slow mons. The faster team looks pretty clearly like it belongs to Bhol at this moment, against a lot of the things that Jinx outspeeds, which is quite a bit, whether it is the Swampert, whether it is the Regice, whether it is the Miltank. It's very dangerous to put him to sleep. Jinx is a tough poke to play against. And also Jumpy, who's clearly trying to protect his Cheetar, taking things like Donphan, Regirock out of the pool. I think Steelix makes sense as a counter to that as well. And again, it's serving double duty. Not only is he taking something that's good against what his opponent has, like the Cheetar, but he's also simultaneously protecting his own stuff. If he were to get Steelix on the other side, it might counter his Jolteon. Now it's not going to do that, and likewise, Steelix might counter his Aerodactyl. Now it's not going to do that, so Bhol really just gets it. He's taking things that are both good against his opponent and good against him. Those are the best things you can take. I really feel like Bhol gets the format. I really, truly do. So, Jumpy on the other side is going to, and this is unsurprising, especially with the Ghost gone, especially with having picked 2 spinners already and having removed a spinner from the pool, he's going to try to win the Spikes game, and he is going to take both a Spiker and a spinner in one go by taking Glalie and Blastoise. I like these picks quite a bit. I think it makes plenty of sense. Jumpy has committed to winning the Spikes war, and these are 2 of the better options available. Of note, for Waters, both Vaporeon and Slowbro, which are, quote, better Waters, are still in the pool. But the fact that he's taking Blastoise clearly shows you that he values trying to win the Spikes war. And with Bhol conveniently taking basically all the good ghosts, I mean, there's Sableye, there's Banette, but basically all the good ghosts out of the pool. You know that your spinners, other than the Gengar, of course, your spinners are going to spin. So I think he finds that very valuable, and he's committing now to winning the Spikes war. I think these picks make plenty of sense. Don't know that they necessarily address the Jinx, but that might be easier said than done at this stage of the battle. And more spice coming down for Bhol. He's going to go for Tauros, which has been, in my opinion, an underappreciated and overperforming mon in the draft format. And he's going to grab Smeargle as well, which could both be a Spore user, again, against a team where a lot of things are going to be slower than it. I really like the sleepers here, Jinx and Smeargle. They're going to be faster than a lot of things and land their sleep attacks. And then the Tauros, like I said, has just been a good draft performer as a whole. It can be harder than you think to switch into CB normal. Jumpy does have a good amount of normal resist in the Cheetar, the Fortress, the Scizor, but even within that, kind of easier said than done. Like, does Cheetar really count? Are you truly comfortable switching Cheetar into Tauros? What if you're wrong? What if he just clicks Earthquake? So it can be really scary. Tauros is one of those mons where your opponent better tread effing carefully. And the other thing is, like, he might not even bring it. Just the threat of it may mess with the way that Jumpy builds, whereas he may not even bring the damn thing. But I think Tauros is a good pick, and I think Smeargle is an even better pick. I love the two late sleepers here for for Bhol against Jumpy, who has a slower squad as a whole. And again, just committing to winning the Spikes War. So Jumpy now is going to go for Armaldo, which can learn Rapid Spin, and it's also a great pick defensively against Snorlax. So I think this is a great pick for Jumpy. And then he's going to grab Arcanine as well. The Arcanine might be a little bit of a pushback against the Jinx and the Steelix. I think that's fine. I think it also helps protect his own Heracross a little bit. I think the Arcanine has play against the Metagross and the Celebi. So I really like this round of picks for Jumpy. They both make sense. Armaldo, like I said, spinner, and a good lax counter, believe it or not. So I think those are solid decisions for Jumpy. And again, these guys just, they get the format. They understand the counter aspect of it. These picks are not random. They're making them for a reason. So, with only a few rounds of picks left, Bhol is going to opt for Breloom and Magneton. Love it, love it, love it. The Breloom, again, with the Jinx, with the Smeargle, he has gone from having 0 sleep inducers, unless you want to count Hypnogar or Hypnomilo, wouldn't count those. Much more reliable sleep inducers now. Lovely Kiss Jinx, Spore Smeargle, Spore Breloom. He's gone from having none to all 3, all in the last round. All of those make a ton of sense to me. And then the Magneton, at first glance, in a draft where Skarmory has been gone since the beginning, you go, I don't know about that. But when you look at it again, it is a Bolt Beam resist against things like Regice, against potentially things like Dragonite, what have you. But it also might trap the Fortress. It also can be a threat to quite a few things on the other side. If you really look at it, it can threaten Zard, it can threaten Blastoise, it can threaten Kingdra, it can threaten Salamence, what have you. And there's a distinct lack of true status absorbers. There's one natural Curemon. I guess the Miltank and the Knight can have Bell. If your Knight has Bell, that's probably a victory on the other side because there's so many better things that it could be doing. I don't know that the Magneton is incredible, but I don't hate that pick either. But I really love the Breloom pick. I've seen Breloom in other drafts be picked much earlier than this, and I think it's quite good against Jumpy's team. Again, it's good against the tower. Again, the threat of Spore is good against all the Slowmons. I like the pick. Alrighty, we are winding down, so now it is Jumpy on his second to last round of picks. He's going to opt for Venusaur and Dodrio at this point. The Venusaur maybe as just like a cedar against the Lax. I don't know. The Venusaur doesn't blow me away in the matchup. It could be okay against like the Milo, the Jolteon, the Claydol, the Lax, but it's also not great against a lot of this stuff. If you go max speed Venusaur, maybe it gets ahead of like the Breloom, the Smeargle, or whatever, and maybe that's really important if you're going to get into a sleep pissing contest. But I don't know that I'm blown away by the Venusaur pick. I don't hate it, but it doesn't stand out to me as like really changing any of these matchups. The Dodrio is interesting as well. I feel like there are enough normal and flying resists on Bhol's team to largely neutralize it if he just goes with Choice Band, but of course it could be like sub BP or something like that, which is pretty dangerous if he can get a little BP chain going. He does have things like Scizor that also gets BP. He has some dangerous targets to pass to, Heracross, Charizard, whatever. Maybe the Dodrio gets used, but the Dodrio doesn't blow me away. I think neither of these picks from Jumpy are super exciting, and I wouldn't be surprised if at least one or maybe even neither of these ultimately end up getting used. All right, final picks for Bhol are Articuno and Linoone. I don't know if the Linoone it's his last pick. It's just a meme. Might as well have fun with it. Don't know what to pick. Happy with my team. Just bring Linoone. Or if he's going full-on gimmick with it, I mean, he's got fucking Smeargle. He could set that thing up for a belly drum sweep. I don't know that Linoone is really going to get used, but it is interesting that if he wants to go full cheese with it, with the 3 sleepers in Breloom, Smeargle, Jinx, There might be some Linoon cheese to be had. I predict he probably doesn't bring it, but it's cute, it's Mimi, and I mean, it's terrifying if he really does bring it. And Jumpy is obviously not going to build his team around the possibility of Linoon being there. So who knows? Maybe maybe we'll see something real damn memorable when it comes to the actual matches. Articuno, interesting pick. The ice threat, obviously good against Salamence, Flygon, what have you. Obviously, however, Salamence and Flygon can have rock attacks as well, so it is a two-way threat. It can wall a lot of the things here all day. Articuno will shut down Kingdra. Articuno can sit in on things like Blastoise forever. It's a threat against Venusaur. It might actually not be the worst against like Heracross, for example. Heracross is supposed to win that 1v1, and of course, Heracross, as we know, can learn Rock Slide, but you can also, if you're Articuno, you can tech out and have HP flying or what have you. It's an interesting pick, and it's also a Heal Bell user as well. If Bhol, in the finishing moments, the finishing touches on his team here, felt that maybe he was a little status vulnerable and maybe really wanted a Beller here. The only thing he has right now that can learn Heal Bell, other than Smeargle, of course, which doesn't really count, is Celebi, which probably doesn't want to have Bell if you can help it. But now he's got another option for Heal Bell, and yeah, I don't hate the Articuno pick. It doesn't blow me away, but I think it does have potential use if he's building at least one Stolly team. It looks like Bhol, by and large, is going pretty aggressive in this draft, and looks like most of his teams, maybe all three, are going to be pretty offense-oriented, but there could be like a Cloyster Stolly team. Articuno could see some love. And then finally, Jumpy just has one more pick to go. I think this is actually a pretty good and possibly relevant last pick. Gonna opt for Sableye here. That could actually be really trolly against the Snorlax. If you go like knockoff recover, for example, that could be really, really obnoxious, especially if it's just like normal coverage plus EQ lax. The Sableye actually can handle that. It also potentially could block spin. It's not fantastic at it, but like it's good enough at blocking a spin from something that isn't all that offensive, like a Cloyster, like a Claydol. Unlike the Venusaur and the Dodrio, which I'd kind of be skeptical if he ends up using them, I think the Sableye actually might end up getting used, and I think that was actually a pretty neat last pick. I think the Sableye, which I'm not a fan of in OU, in this situation actually might have a little bit of utility. But I mean, let's also be honest, there's also situations where you bring Sableye into the, Aerodactyl Moltres team or whatever, and it just does not have the bulk to be relevant, and it just gets absolutely overwhelmed and blown up. So it's going to be really matchup dependent, but if he can land that against the Snorlax, or if he tries to get into a Spikes War and is using that to protect from, say, Claydol, then that's interesting. I think the Sableye has a chance of being used for sure. I think that is a nice last pick. And that's the draft. Overall, I thought this was a good draft. I thought these guys really understood the format. Bhol, I think there is no perfect draft. There is no sequence of perfect decisions. Everything is just so nuanced and subjective in this. But Bhol, I think, gets something damn close to like an A+ in my book. The picks really made sense to me. I liked every phase of his draft. I really felt like he understood the format. Jumpy, I think, also, strong draft, understood the format. This was very competitive. I really think these guys are two of the better players in the tournament and really know what they're doing. This is an unfortunate round one pairing, but if I have to pick a winner in this one, I mean, Jumpy is probably the better ADV player of the two. Not that Bhol is bad. I just think Jumpy's better. But I think I prefer Bhol's draft as a whole. There's just so many good Mons that even with bans, both players are just always going to have a lot of good Mons. It's just the nature of the format. And you can look at either side and be like, man, there's a lot of strong stuff there, and that's just the way it's going to go in every draft. So obviously, when you just have really strong things at your disposal, any given match can go any given way. But if I had to pick a winner here, I think I would rather be on Bhol's end. I think he drafted really, really well. I think his decisions made a lot of sense. And I think the overall squads that he's going to end up with are both strong and proactive, and also I think they're good in general against a lot of the configurations that I think make sense for Jumpy. So If I had to predict a winner here, despite believing that Jumpy is probably the better ADV player, I guess I would say that I think Bhol won this draft. You guys can let me know if you agree or disagree with that in the comments. It's always, like I said, super nuanced, super subjective. You guys might see it a totally different way, and that is the point of the comment section. So get down there, let me know, who do you think won this draft? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and there will, of course, not only be more drafts coming up on this channel sometime soon, but additionally, when these matches actually begin to happen, you will see those as well. So thank you for joining me. Hope you're enjoying the tour so far. Remind you real quick, this tour is accepting donations. Prize pool, kind of underwhelming at the moment. It's only like $250. Not trying to make it big, but if we can get it up to like $500-600, I'd be very happy with that. So if you've been enjoying the content, if you think the format's cool, and you've got the means, please do consider donating as well. You can do that via a PayPal link in the Discord server. Link to that Discord server in the description. Thank you for watching.